I think that my work is quite autobiographical, but in a way that it references just everyday things that might happen to anyone or anyone could notice. And I'm just kind of pinpointing those moments and elevating them by making a whole massive painting about it. I've talked about it before as being kind of like a diary, but they're not a secret diary. It's things that are meant to be shared in some way, either through a painting, maybe through a little bit of writing, or basically through storytelling. In terms of style, I don't think I work in a very abstract way. It's figurative, and I like to think of each painting as being a portrait, but not of a particular person, a portrait of a scenario. So I still think of the way that I'm painting as being quite linear, and there might be a strong base to it, but the fact that all of these extra drawings are layered on top, creating more and more lines that are entangled, makes it feel like I'm doing a drawing. It's just in this more physical plane that I can move about and think about it in relation to the space it might hang in. My grandma, who lives in China, has just a very well documented life. There's always pictures of her being sent to us, her doing anything, her eating, her singing, her just out for a walk. So I have this never-ending supply of documentation of her life. So we got this really cinematic rendition of her birthday cake blowing out session. Just the way it was framed even, I just thought it was great. So I started kind of painting this birthday cake as the solid object. Quite often the way that I'll be painting things, it might start with a solid base, either just a blanket of colour or an actual physical object like that cake. And then once that forms a base, I start adding line on top. And that line, it could be to do with that base image, or it might just end up being other stories that can then kind of layer on top of it to create a final image. Obviously I was thinking about her whilst painting it, and looking at other images I have of her at different stages in her life, and then thinking about my dad, who's her son. So images of those two started kind of cropping up as drawings, and then the drawn image starts being translated into the painted image. In that painting there's kind of elements of her face coming through, my dad's face coming through, him as a child, him as now lounging on the sofa. So then it started becoming a portrait rather than just of her, but a portrait of this kind of intergenerational relationship, and the idea of how birthdays or celebrations like that start making you think about time and going back in time, and also your relationship to the people that you're celebrating with. I quite often think about how my parents met, because it was the 80s. My dad was studying violin, he is Chinese, and my mum was studying Chinese in London but went to Chengdu for her year abroad. And so they met because she was at the university near the music school. And I think because they met speaking Chinese and that was the context for them building their relationship, it's meant that for my sisters and me, even living in the UK, we still have this very strong link and sense of importance of being from both places. I quite like it not being in a really overt way. Maybe if you didn't see the title of a particular painting, you only saw the visual, you might not kind of grasp that idea. And then later on you might notice the title, and it kind of makes you backtrack a bit and think, I guess because it's me that's making it, and the references and experiences that I'm documenting are from daily life, which pre-pandemic meant there was quite a lot based in China. If I'd go and visit my family there, the painting does turn out to be some sort of representation of that mixed identity. But I actually grew up quite shy, I think. I was quite quiet and people always said, oh, you're the middle child, you're the shy one. And sometimes you kind of play up to that a bit, or the more someone says that, the more you become that. And now, I don't know, I wouldn't say I'm quiet now, but all of this time that I'd spent being kind of a bit quiet and observing is maybe actually really important to what I'm doing now. All the things that I notice that I then want to depict are things that I think a child could notice as well. And maybe it's more my interest of like linking to the way that I may have thought as a 5-year-old to the way that I think now. And I almost never want to lose that kind of inquisitiveness or ability to completely deep focus on such a tiny detail. Like that feeling when you're young and you're meeting some of your parents' friends, and rather than actually think about what they're talking about and how they're questioning you, you're just really fixated on the way their left eye blinks slightly slower than their right, or something like that. Yeah, I think at some point I'm going to have this big circle here that is kind of unavoidable, and it's almost like it's asking to be a part of something. It's like raising its hand, being like, I'm here too, can you make something about me? Having this show a month or so just beforehand, it's going to be this thing to work up to, just like how I'm working up to giving birth. Whenever you put lots of things in a room together, and whether you have photographs of it or not, definitely the months afterwards, you're always replaying that in your head and able to pick up on things that you want to improve on, or it just gives you new ideas and kind of inspires you to keep on making.